Right, so welcome to the 14th reading in the selfishly titled David Has Zoom Pro for a Few Months reading series. I was just saying that as the legend goes, I needed Zoom Pro for teaching and figured hosting poets and have people share their work was a more efficient use of Zoom than just teaching technical writing and business writing and composition. So thank you all for tuning in and joining us tonight. We have three incredible poets. We have Claire Denson, Jared Beloff, and Kay Iver. And I didn't think I had to say this, but after the last reading, apparently I have to say it. Please stay muted. We have three readers. They're going to be reading their work. That's it. If you want to shout anything out, we have the wonderful chat. So please use the chat to shout out things, encourage the readers. I don't know, ask questions if you want to ask questions, I guess. Whatever you want to use the chat for, the chat is there. And of course, the wonderful Zoom reactions for clapping and all of that goodness. All right, so thank you to my readers for being willing to join us tonight. I'm really excited about it. These readings always kind of re-energize me and get me excited about poetry again. So I'm looking forward to this. And we're going to hear from Claire and then Jared and then Kay. All right. So our first reader, Claire Denson, is a poet in New York. Her writing appears in the Cincinnati Review, the Missouri Review, and the Massachusetts Review, among others. Her poems have been anthologized in Peach Mag, Booth, and Best of Versification, nominated for Best of the Met and Best New Poets, and featured in Literary Hub. She reads for the Adroit Journal and works as a book publicist.
Thank you, David, for inviting me to read and for putting this together. It's great to be included in this group of fantastic writers like Kay Iver and Jared Beloff. And thank you both for reading too. I have a few poems, so I'll just get right into it. Wild card. Last call at a Belgian bar, and he calls me wild card. Wild card, what those college guys said when I took a bath at the party. They all thought I was vomiting or killing myself. Wild card, the reason one poet avoids me. You never know what she'll say, and he's sensitive. I asked Mom last week, why no discipline? She said I wanted you to be free. Red crayon snap drawings on white rented walls, mashed potatoes scooped in the palm, flung in the diner. A stranger's voice, you should be ashamed. When we moved, I licked the neighbors. I was in my 10th year of my 12-year dog phase, the beginning of its beating out of me. But nothing strange feels strange when it's how you're raised. Dirt hallway with rusty nails from ripped up floorboards, ants in each vent, the hunger pains, the kicked in locks. I grew up unhindered in an unhinged household, and the painted picket fence of adulthood now surrounding my brain, chips, yellows, cracks. The knots. Girl camp is a cruel place. Kids circle swarming for a closer look as Sammy plucks each leg off the lanky spider. They played a game I knew through praxis. When I near, run away laughing. And what's left of you, Daddy? Its limbless form, only a dot. Molly cries, clutching the necklace from her late mother. The girl allergic to my body powder wakes to the whole dose spread through her cubby of clothes. Hived all summer, she chokes while dressing. The toxin woven into each fiber won't wash out. Carly makes sure Molly's watching while dangling the chain over the toilet, giggles as she drops it in the swirl. These girls are grown now. I hear their nurses and I can see the mischief morphing. Carly volunteers to tell a patient she's dying. Sammy steals morphine from the cancer ward. Look how I elect to see cruelty as constant. What did I leave back there in the tangle of loss? Some body powder, a friend, perspective. I was a sadist once. Didn't I laugh after spitting in someone's lunch? Didn't I say a girl smelled salty? Not like the sea, but like salami? It wasn't true. I just thought it was funny. Is it funny still? Is that the question that decides if the nurse harms or heals? At the sink, I wash my face and watch the dirt slide down the drain, but deep in our pores, the past remains. The world needs more softness. Everything wants to live. Gutter water, forming spheres instead of falling, the fire inside the house of my heart crackling, the family at the hearth of my vows, the spider in the corner of the living room spinning quietly. The spider asks for little more than an inch or so. Even if I couldn't see it, I'd still hate knowing it was there. You know this story. I killed the spider. I spread the flame, the arsonist, to my own burning building. I'm the shocked child and the parent. I'm the shrieking child and the parent too shocked to dial. The world needs more softness, and I weave in more sorrow. I heard every tragedy is a comedy given time. Is that how it goes? Burial doesn't stop the rot. Even caskets decompose. Not me, I won't go slow. I incinerate all things inside my home. I cremate the hope, quiet all screams. What a sight. Spines of books that crumble to touch. Here lies my heart among the ash. I think I hear it writhe. On killing a bee at Naples Pier, Florida. I promise I only meant well. I found you between collected shells. You were struggling on the shore. Lion's paw, shark's eye, sailor's ear, you. I built a fence of muscle, snail for closure, rock oyster spiked against enemy sea. It was no use. The wave came and washed the sand from your fur. I saw you, alive, black and wet, on your back, legs flailing, failing to find a grip. It was so pitiful, I wondered if you were trying to save yourself or came here to die. I held a new power I didn't know what to do with. I held a curved shell against your legs like a ramp, but you couldn't hoist your weight. So I pushed the sand to move you onto the shell, but the grains rose over your body like a wave, and again you looked like you were drowning. Sometimes the kindest thing to do is nothing. I'm sorry, I said as I flung the lump of you into the water. It was then I noticed that an octopus beetle or predator of another kind drilled a hole in one of the shells. Looking at the ocean through it, I replay what I had done. I could have moved you. I could have picked up the sand from underneath and ran you to the pier. Why did I stay on the shore? Feasting. 12 hours of sleep. My survival is ordinary. In the 9th grade, the algebra teacher asked how many hours a day we watched TV. I was catching up to the 90s, up till 3 a.m. with Buffy, sneaking to the library during lunch, one earbud in during French. No wonder my gay friend told everyone she was sure about me. Unbuttoning my skirt under the dinner table, stomach expanding. It's always too much. Indulgence wallows ravenous, lying on my side. 9 hours of vampire TV, my dot on the graph, an example of outlier. Is it bad to try everything just to make sure I like it? I like it. Sometimes I order everything on the menu. I mean this in the practical sense. It's the same with love. Too much isn't enough. Octopus chard, burrata, artichoke marinade, the black ink, the scallop. I tongue the eye out of the snapper. I kiss my lover till the sheets mold, lemon oil leaking up my sleeve. Social chameleon. In the car, an audiobook on how to negotiate tells me I'm water, quick to shape myself around another. I wasn't listening closely. At first, I thought it was the moth on the radio, read by a very boring man. It's the scene where the psychopath is trying to communicate and seem normal, smiling to show warmth when warmth is required, feigning connection to blend in. When we round the corner, I see a baby fox in the shape and color of the sunlit garbage bag, my mind shaping fruit onto the rotten core. Water doesn't try to be water. It flows downhill, rises in heat, what you want and what you need. The Mothman says not to treat others how you want to be treated. It's unlikely the other is like yourself. Maybe this is why each of my friends cannot fathom my other friendships, why I find myself saying yes and entering new worlds every weekend, like trapdoors, inserting myself where I don't belong, showing up a stranger in the voice and dress of an old friend. Who does that make me? And who are you? When somehow, in each new room, I'm exactly what you're looking for. Date night. Woman strangled, staring. I stream the horror show and wake to the sky of my nightmare coming alive. Lover's car crashed, head cracked. His pool of blood snakes toward a pothole. Skin bits dot the curb. Worry is a mockery, a wannabe. It invites me in with a wink. Wearing the lips of my first kiss, it morphs into rain and floods down my throat. Worry's a con man, a catfish, a creep. It picks me up late in a stolen van. It orders oysters, caviar, quail, then leaves before the bill. A couple takes pity, offers me a ride. Worry unbuckles my belt, ogles the door. I'm knuckle locking my hands over my knee, brain twitching in the back seat. The beast claims me. I unwrap the breakfast bread, stare into mold, drive on empty. The beast cowers in the back, foam trembling down her jowls. When I neglect to feed the beast, she bites. I clip her claws for my comfort, and I would shave her teeth if I could. Another car honks while I merge and remember all the wrong things. Old grudge, something said, cut off friend. I tear off my loose nail, talk out loud to hear a voice. The beast blames me for the bell around her neck. It's the only way I know she's there. I press the blinker, push the gas, lie about the hours left. We'll be home soon, I tell the beast, all these states away. She was a photographer. At 18, I told her I was in love with a middle-aged man who didn't ask my name. She laughed. I looked down subway tracks, past yellow, eyes stuck, thumbed a Bic until it burned, then pressed some more. Strangers said where. I asked when. You can do it too. Here, squeeze it close, hear it click. The idea couldn't fit in her head. This isn't fun, this isn't fun, this isn't funny. It moved before her like a shift in light. Adjust the frame, erase the change. Do you know your breaking point before it's reaching? Do you step back before the flash? He showed and shoved me in the corner. She told me to relax. I asked at least to see the shot she took and won't stop taking. She said no, then took another, told me, smile, bitch, through those long, crest-whitened teeth. Hibernation. One season, my stomach shrank from staying in bed for months so hungry. When bears hibernate, their bodies recycle to stay alive, reabsorbing urine, feces, like a dream each night. In those winter days, my stronger self receded into that hole we all fear. Dirt from every angle. No one thinks so, but bears do wake in that shadowed cave, shifting to ward off sores before going back under. I showed up to the meetings. I walked in the shade, and my life survived on nothing but itself, reenacting its own memory. Like entering a room. Surely I had ventured to get there, but the journey was lost. I could not remember the feeling of water as it showered down. Spring returned. I emerged. What did I learn? To survive, you must hide in the hollow you came from. If you can't find it, dig. No, that's not it. The dirt didn't save me. I was spared. And this is my last one. Someone else. When the principal called her name on the intercom, she pulled me along. I trailed behind as the scene warped around her. Dusty blue lockers curled to the shape of the breath she left. Floor tiles squirmed with the silverfish, lines of caulk snapped, but geometry stayed still for me. It's going to be all right, I told her. It's going to be all right, which I could say because I cared less, not because I was uncaring, but because it wasn't happening to me and my life would continue unaffected. It wasn't all right. They found him in the grove with a bullet in his head. We were 17 and worried about being chubby and getting caught smoking in those woods or fingered in the basement, not the death of our childhoods, which is what the death of a sibling means. The fluorescent lights dripped hot crimson liquid onto her cheek. I watched the moment my best friend split, and as she stood there, a statue of blood, I knew anything could happen to me. I'm still waiting. Me, wearing her face. Someone else, my voice. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much, Claire. It's a fantastic way to get us started. I loved it. All right. Let's see. Next up, we have Jared Beloff, who is the author of the recently released Who Will Cradle Your Head from ELJ Editions. He is the editor of the Marvel-inspired poetry anthology Marvelous Verses from Daily Drunk, and has been a peer reviewer for Railroad Review since 2021. His work can be found at Night Heron Barks, Barron Magazine, Rivermouth Review, The Shore, Contrary, and elsewhere. You can find him on Twitter at, I want to say red underscore instead. I'll put that in the chat so you can all find him and see his website, jaredbeloff.com. He is a teacher who lives in Queens, New York with his wife and 2 daughters.
Thank you, David. Thank you for everybody who's here tonight. It's read underscore instead, which comes from a TV that I saw in a vintage shop in Boston that had it written across the TV screen. They were trying to sell it. And I thought that was a cool thing because I like to read instead. So I have this book. It's Who Will Cradle Your Head? And it's about climate change and anxiety and being a parent. But within it, I have poems that are persona poems. So I'm trying to inhabit the mindset of people. And on the East Coast, it's a migratory superhighway, and light pollution often confuses birds where they'll just circle the city and end up dying of exhaustion or slamming into buildings. And there are actually people that collect these birds. And this first poem is called The Bird Collector. Last summer's pulse nudged the tide, noticeable as salt graining the seawall. But the mangroves are pulling back, their roots like frayed brooms holding on to detritus. Spoonbills, gangly and roseate, have already left Biscayne Bay for higher ground. Somehow this hasn't been registered as a fact we can grieve. It is my job to collect the dead that circle Miami's mirrored light. Black-throated warblers lit by a night shine, northern parulas searching out a distant home. Each bird crashes dreaming of a windowed horizon, not realizing the sea and its dotted green is already behind them. Everyone here is looking for more space and time. A group of warblers is called a confusion. Spoonbills are called a bowl. I lay them out in lines like ruffled silver, a tide of feathers, a confusion of bodies. Their mouths clattered open in search of food, a name lilting their small tongues. They stare out as if wondering which species is called a drawerful. I often write about my daughter, my little one, because she just says and does really interesting things, and this one's about her. It's titled Animal Crackers. My daughter pulls animals out of the head of a large plastic bear like a magic trick, holds them up, asks, "What's this?" A large cat slopes its shoulders, front paw extended as if to find proper footing between her thumb and forefinger. We begin with names. Snow leopard, tiger. The plastic bear's smile is wild. "Isn't this nice?" he seems to say, teeth tight with grit and grin. "Isn't this sweet?" But then I remember the palm oil fires in Borneo, a cluster of orangutans pushed in a wheelbarrow, or the handful of bears emerging from the Russian taiga's open maw, fur matted, gummed to a dull brown, come to rummage through the town's leftovers, wraps and rinds fished from metal dumpsters torn open like paper bags, need pushing us past margins of loss. Giant panda, sea otter. Perhaps the difference between accumulation and loss is a matter of proximity and scale. Animals you can't fit in your palm, two-dimensional as an endangered list. Asian elephant, lowland gorilla. At what point do I stop her? Tell her this is enough, knowing we will not be satisfied, that even our naming, since Adam, is an attempt to live in an unrecognizable world. David, yes, this shirt is my book cover because my dad made 2 shirts with the book cover, and I'm like, I don't know when I'm ever gonna wear this, so I'll wear it to the reading. I guess he wears his around. Really funny. So one of the things, I guess one of the fantasies as I'm writing this book was like thinking of time, and it seems like the weirdest thing to comfort yourself in climate grief would be to think of not existing. But for some reason, that was very comforting to me. But thinking about it, like if humans didn't exist, then the world would refresh itself. And so this is a poem that imagines that, but it also imagines it after a pretty heavily anthologized and taught poem by Ted Kooser. He wrote a poem called "The Abandoned Farmhouse," and it's a deductive poem where you're basically something's happened at this farmhouse and little details of it help you understand what's happened to that farmhouse. But this one's called Restoration. The rooms were vacant, says the broken glass and tattered curtains in the farmhouse windows. Inviting too, says the burrowed lengths of the beds in each drafty room, and a good, well-loved home, say the pellets and peels next to the Bible torn and broken below the window, brushed by sun. But not for all, say the prints laid in the dirt, leading to the door and the tall grass beyond. Desire is the slope down the back of hills along the horizon, says the glacier, sliding like a hand, tracing each boulder freckled field. Longing is the only measure of time, say the holes tapped into the doors framed by searching birds before a cold winter. Loneliness lays like snowfall where the puddles melt, says the spray of mud left at the narrow threshold. Yet something wrong is set right, say the roots that buckle the boards. The fuzz of moss, sugaring pulp and dust says there is nothing to return to. The cellar filled with dendrites, each splintered side, every pipe spidered with rust, plow broken, the field blossoming seed, an understory. Something set right. Read it, another daughter poem, but it's also about these really weird plants that scientists thought they had discovered a plant that was about to go extinct, and because they named things in strange ways, they decided to name the flower after its extinction. It's called Gasteranthus extinctus, but 3 years later, different scientists found the flower thriving somewhere else, and so it was not extinct. So Gasteranthus extinctus. Last night's broadcast discussing climate anxiety was interrupted by the magnolias dying outside, shriveled pink, fried at the stems by frost. A week of charred petals, sponsored by some foundation's commitment to build a more verdant world. cling to green shoots the way a memory will stay. My daughter picks blossoms from a fallen pear tree, their translucent sequins against asphalt. What is the name for death's expectancy? Correspondents recall scientists naming flowers for their extinction, a birthing sense of dread, which reminds me to attend to death before the dying. Look, Daddy, but I don't want to grieve for the planet anymore. Scientists, new ones, rediscover thriving flowers untouched by sprawl or the cancer in my father's veins, a premature nostalgia. Can you guys hear the music? There's like a car playing ridiculously loud music outside it's New York. So I have a series of poems in this book that inhabit a Sasquatch that has survived the apocalypse. So basically humanity is gone, but there's a Sasquatch, because if anybody's going to survive, it's the guy who's been hiding from everything for so long. And he's just kind of looking around and being like, what is this? What has been left? And this poem is called Sasquatch Explores Fresh Kills. And Fresh Kills is actually a landfill in Staten Island. So Sasquatch Explores Fresh Kills. This used to be landfill, now wilding, overgrown, settling layer over composted layer, packing sediment, swaddling root, alive, intimate, suffocating. The ivy searching hands and bittersweet vines swim the humid air, filled with cicadas static. My foot hits an edge, a plastic thud, a doll's mottled face, the remains of an abandoned car seat. Who will cradle your head? What imprint will be left as mustard grass and clover spread like muslin over loss? I traced these green recesses like a scar's braided renewal, shading our grief, which is also hope. A weave, which is memory, but also love. So I spent a year and a half writing about dread. And when I finished the manuscript, I was like, I need to do something that's not just depressing or dealing with my own depression over climate. And so I wrote a chapbook about Dunkin' Donuts and famous poets wanting or dealing with or ordering Dunkin' Donuts. And I promise no poet laureates were harmed in the making of this one. It's Ada Limon and Jennifer Knox argue over who should take the last bite. The donuts reminded them of fairy rings. They stared, wondering what was lost, how a decayed absence of something. There's a hole, after all, could lead to the appearance of perfect circles resting in rows. One by one, they ate them straight from the box, laughing at chocolate-streaked teeth, a glazed flake in a mouth's corner, until there was only one left, like a fledgling, they thought, like a life preserver, to ask, which of you needs saving? You take it, I couldn't. No, that one is yours. A standoff, like a kiss or a sacrifice. Fear shivers up underneath, raises to their lips' rim, as if to take from what was once beautiful, to give even after there is nothing left. I've been working on a new manuscript that is kind of exploring my heritage, and my father's Jewish, my mother is not, and that's been a thing of contention when I was really young and kind of stuck with me, all of that. And so the new manuscript's trying to explore that. And this poem is it's called My Father Orders Kasha Vernishkas from Baines Deli at the Deptford Mall food court, or Love is Good, but it's best with bread. A gut bomb, heavy and dry, if not outright burned like most of his meals. His plate of egg noodles is outnumbered by our pizza slices dabbed with grease or Mom's chicken, the starch mounds of rice slick with citrus and sugar. We look past comfort, regard his bow ties as another unquestioned quirk, and I'm 5 years old again, walking into our kitchen to my father, scooping out the entire container of Daisy into a bowl of sliced bananas. I do not ask. The television's blue fills his face. He's not watching, doesn't notice the program's changed. It's 8 p.m. Do you know where your children are? His mouth works the buckwheat, toothsome, crumbled over the plate. The shoveling of dirt, crossing a continent to escape grime, a sickle of earth beneath the fingernails, a story summed up as fire and pogrom, steam presses in a tenement in Philadelphia where he remembers the proper thickness of rolls, the thin slices of lox, or the carp his mother kept in the bathtub on Snyder Avenue, the hammer she would use. There's a dent in the door where his head would have been. His mouth works silently, and for the moment, the fish are still swimming. This one's titled Self-Portrait with My Daughter as Ema Shabbat. Yesterday, a boy chanted death to Jews in class, and I felt the floor open up as a ravine from a treeless village on another continent. In daycare, my daughter covers her eyes, sings to the queen of the Sabbath. The sun over the treetops no longer is seen. My knees clenched at its muddy lip, a shoe sprayed dirt down into the open wound. I wouldn't look at the boy's face. Birds shape letters in the sky, fly as a seam joining the horizon. Flames reach up for a remembered prayer. Draw nigh with angels. We are all bodies, shadowed by the sun. The children break bread, drink grape juice with a straw. My daughter smiles. The sun over the treetops no longer is seen. Go forth in peace until the coming of the Sabbath. And the last one I wrote in response to, I kept seeing ads for the All Quiet on the Western Front, because they were truly, I guess they were really working towards getting an Oscar. And I was so sick of seeing this ad and just kind of getting sick of war movies. And so this is a response to that. And it's called The State of Cinema. They've run out of green helmets and German accents, so there will be no more films. The trench is full, each eruption stitched with grass. There are no more pistols wavering, no more reluctant boys learning to be killers. The operators at their switchboards pull their blouses from high-waisted skirts. They go home, play their records, hear the needle and groove static before the first notes sound. There are no more blonde women with red lipstick left to walk slick cobblestones alone. The run in her stocking says that the wars have ended. An old man wipes a soiled handkerchief across his brow, smiles at nothing. The extras line up near the river at the edge of town. They return ripped clothing and cracked jackboots in quiet piles. Their guns have rusted. A girl walks her red bicycle down a dirt path where casings were once scattered like seeds. Her humming plays across a stand of wheat. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, Jared. I was not aware of Dunkin' Donuts poems, and now I definitely want to read some more of those. I'm starting to realize I think I like poems that are set in fast food restaurants. So an early love for Joe Winterroth's Letters from Wendy's. Letters to Wendy's? Yeah. Letters to Wendy's. All right. Our final reader, Iver, is a non-binary trans poet from Mississippi. Their poems have appeared in Boston Review, Gulf Coast, Puerto del Sol, Salt Hill, Tri-Quarterly, The Adroit, and elsewhere. Their book, short film starring my beloved's Red Bronco, won the 2022 Ballard Spar Prize for Poetry and is now available from Milkweed Editions. Iver is the 2021-2022 Ronald Wallace Fellow for Poetry at the Wisconsin Institute for Creative Writing, and they have a PhD in poetry from Florida State University.
Thank you, David. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Wow, those were wonderful poems to listen to tonight. Thank y'all, Jared and Claire, so much. Yeah, I feel nourished by all of those poems. I'll be reading from my book, short film, starting with Beloved Jared Beloff. And yeah, it is just kind of a coming of age memoir in verse. And many of the poems elegize a trans beloved who is no longer with us, someone I knew for about 11 years. I met him when I was 14 and he passed when I was 25. So, and he was 26. And there are some family poems in here too. I kind of give you some contrast to the tenderness that the beloved offered me. Yeah, that's all you need to know. I'll just start with the epigraphs. There must be a girl. There has always been a girl. There must be a boy. There has always been a boy. There must be a ghost. They must be hungry. That's Oliver Bias Bendorf. Second epigraph. How should I greet thee, Lord Byron? I'll start with the very first poem in the book. In the beginning, yes, a garden, as lush as your imagining. Even the grass grows mid-oak. In the beginning, the grass and trees and birds are already tired of their assigned names. They consider rebellion. The green blades think of rounding. Feathered wings dream of swimming a backstroke. But someone assigned woman beats them to it by eating something edible. In the beginning, in a hospital in North Mississippi, a mother holds her new baby, calls this day her happiness. The baby is you. The mother is surprised you're here with only a heart murmur. She says, having lived through her bloodstream's birth control and later tequila, you must be a fighter. In the beginning, there's much holding. There's not enough holding. In the beginning, a father says you're beautiful because you are. In the beginning, you're 3 years old and crying too loud on the beach because a surprise wave knocked you down and the salt won't leave your mouth. The salt won't leave your eyes, your hands, each fingerprint. In the beginning, while you're still walking down the shore, still crying, a father slaps you on the thigh. Hard. You stop crying in your purple one piece. Here, a beginning, a small house on a wooded hill where dogwoods bloom when they're supposed to. If you're wondering what cardinals would do for you besides moving bright color around, you're 12. If you're wondering what parts of life are survivable, you're 14. There, the beginning, a boy fully clothed in flannel and denim. He tells you, only you, that he's a boy. You understand. He knows nothing of your uncertainty about lip gloss, what makes you a girl. He might not understand. In the beginning, he looks at you the way someone must have when you were born. Here, in the forest, a ripeness both of you can eat, but somehow shouldn't. A fruit board with sinless afternoons and aching for teeth. Here's a poem about the boy. It's called For Missy Who Never Got His New Name. I hear the stars are sentient, which gives me hope for the nitrogen feeding your grass, even more for the mole ending the day's burrow in your skull. I'm told your atoms are still atoms. Somewhere you're sitting by a pool, picking apart the physics of swimming. In the highway of a large high school in Mississippi, you're again the sophomore guarding my classroom entrance with a letter like an undiscovered prince. I resumed my surprise at desire I thought was for cave dwellers. This is where I go wrong. I loved a body who didn't. My younger self wants the word to rebuild rather than stop at the blonde hair, middle part, low ponytail, the impressive manliness with which your hips carried utility denim. I tell my young self to flatten her memory's landscape. Picture two scars, liberating a torso, a first name that doesn't hiss. Soon, a Brooklyn apartment. We pretend it finally happened for you. It really did. Here's a poem where I play with Missy's name. It's called Tupelo, Mississippi, and it has a strike through with Tupelo, Mississippi. And that was our hometown. Crop dusters have gone missing. Storm clouds missing. Every owl has gone missing. Entire foothills. There are no dogwoods or foxes to miss them. Radio towers are missing. An archive has always been missing. Unmarked graves have not been missed, have been missed to death. Downtown is missing, the hardware store where Elvis brought his first guitar. The songs he robbed from juke joints. Original names for the dirt have been missing a long time. The namers have not been missed, have been missed terribly. A gospel just went missing. A gospel took all it needed for its metaphor to work. My lover went missing today. My lover went missing 15 years ago. When neighbors spoke to him, they spoke to someone else. I found his old letters missing from their hat box. Each pencil word called from my mother's chimney. The brick said nothing. This is called A Medium Performs Your Visit. You are, according to her, whispering candy through her mouth. And suddenly I remember why so many have a sweet tooth for belief. I'm waiting for class in the high school courtyard where we met, and you offered me an open pack of Reese's Pieces. I took several, closed my mouth around yellow number 5, where it steeped until homeroom. Even then, you were looking everywhere for a new name. Signed all of your notes, Reese. So when the medium looks up from her black tablecloth and says, candy, I almost believe your mouth is her mouth. Like I almost once believed a God could hold me with words. That was during the time when you, a blind boy forced to call himself a girl, stood in my driveway under a glazed moon, saying, one day you won't be scared, which meant one day my mouth would touch the mouth our church couldn't categorize. Right now, I'm arguing with belief again. The everywhereness of candy, how easily anyone can recall stories of hard and soft sugar playing a supporting role. I'm writing this down, hoping you'll see it and argue back. Remind me that before we met, I turned the pages of our junior high yearbook and stopped at the landscape spread of an ice cream social and you, the one closest to the camera, holding up a Snickers bar with both hands and an ad-ready wink. Say it again, Reese. Prove me wrong. I started reading this one. It's called Anti-Elegy. I started reading this one a lot more at readings since I started hearing the word eradication in policy and the actual and hearing news of actual enactments of these policies that are toward our eradication. Anti-elegy. If you were here, the Mississippi would still run south, would still drop its griefs into the Gulf where our friends would still swim in summer. Water would touch us like water. If you were here, the river that is your body would not move magically. While it appeared from the bladder's headwaters, from tear ducts and pores, public officials would still turn the fact of your body into arguments. You might have struck the impossible. Surgery, a new name, your own boat, and someone beautiful to name it after. Someone beautiful and their baby. From one dorm room landline to another, your wish list sounded like a fairy tale, like growing a merman's fin between classes. I thought we were playing pretend when you said, "Good night, Tinkerbell," and I said the boy's name you wanted secret. Even then, strangers spoke to a boy when speaking to you. That was 20 years ago. The list, already a plan, already gliding an undercurrent, sprung 20 years before that. If you were here, still drinking cold tea in a cold diner, men in state capitol conference rooms, hours down the highway, would still draft bathroom laws for adults. Your mother would still sneak taffeta and silk in your closet of fatigues and say she loved you. I wouldn't imagine your capillaries reassembling if you were still dying like the rest of us. I wouldn't tell a young ghost how far we've come as if I believed how far we've come was enough. Wouldn't worry about who else gets more in 27 years. Your body wasn't a national average. You wanted more than safety. But I didn't wake sore in the jaw until I heard the numbers, until a nation, an entire nation, couldn't offer an alibi. Missy, my grief is righteous and problematic. It floods the last four walls holding you and begs for time. It hurls absurd reasons from a future, a handful of trans film stars humanizing a handful of trans characters, better doctors. My grief says it's helping, but argues only for me. The relief, the microsecond of relief when I achieve the unexpected and hope you find out. This means I forget you're gone. This makes my grief a loose dam. Still, I talk to water that unrivered your body for dirt. I float fantasies of dirt that holds us up longer. I say to the water, if you were here, you'd be here. This one is a sister poem to the title poem short film starring, it's called Short Film Starring My Beloved's Living Body. Open with the two-lane highway, the ice truck and the ice, your elbow resting on the driver's side window. Zoom in on the toned forearm, the goldenrod rushing by. Missy, our audience can see you now. Show them the gas station delivery where a drunk lady screams about your good looks because there's no original way to say a man is beautiful, and the lady really did scream. Our audience will believe us, and they won't. They'll say people this lovely are only in films. No one with lips this pillowy needs to deliver ice. And here you are, lifting bags and saving up for a weekend in Memphis at the Motel 6. There's no time for dialogue about class or gender. No room to signal that your time with goldenrod is limited. Your time awake is limited. Look how awake you are. How the facial bones move with perfect alignment under the dermis. Cut to the motel, leaving its light on for your red Bronco. Now the motel's dark interior. Now the bed nearest the window where you and a just out of high school date can finally make contact after years of parentally imposed silence. I'm sorry. This film can't access your interior. Your date is the only one directing her memory. Your date is me. My memory is the shower scene, already zoomed in on your face. Open your eyes again. Look directly at me. Hold the camera's gaze through the falling water as if this were our last frame. Missy, this is our last frame. Body is the only good word for body. I'm afraid of home's hunger for yours. But off camera, the interstate is waiting and my lines are, let's go. I'll just read two more, two small ones. It's called Fantasy with No Secrets. Instead of staring at each other on the landing, you touch my face and lean in. My mouth opens to soft possibility. I go home wearing your class ring, that cold silver, lab-grown sapphire, exactly my size. The next morning, my mother wakes me, picks up my hand, reads your engraved name out loud. The steep angles of her jaw sharpen when she says I better treat you right. All right, this one's called Because You Can't, comma, because you can't. I stand in front of paintings a long time and think about the bones once belonging to you and how Egon Schiele could line a body into movement. Because you no longer have a shape, I've made a practice of nearness. A hawk lets me stroke her mid-flight. I let comets land in my mouth when they're small enough. My lover pushes all their weight on me because I ask. They flatten me into astonishment. Because nothing can astonish you, I tempt what's alive by doubting I could love it more. It's a neat trick. When I use it, raccoons visit often, their fingers closed around mud older than you. Missy, this is me moving on. There's a noon rain to get caught in and many clavicles to behold. I wish you could see this one, tilting across a century. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kay, for sharing all of those with us. For Missy, who never got his new name, is such a beautiful poem. Thank you. Unfortunately, that brings us to an end tonight. I want to once again thank Claire, Kay, and Jared. Let's have a, awkward Zoom round of applause for our three wonderful readers. To, keep in touch with the reading series and find out about future readings, you can follow us on Twitter at David Has Zoom Pro. And I think if you search for David Has Zoom Pro on YouTube, you will also find all of our previous readings, including soon. This one will be up there as well. So thank you again to our readers. Thank you to everyone who tuned in to support these amazing poets. And hopefully I will see everybody next time. Thank you.
Thank you, David.